Imagine spending 12 years building a life with someone, trusting them, dreaming with them, only for that person to walk into court, look you dead in the eye and demand $8.5 million. And your family's ranch. Everyone thought I'd lose. Even my lawyer told me to settle. But then, I handed the judge a single document that changed everything. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted most, hit that like button. Subscribe and stick around, because this is one of the most satisfying courtroom revenge stories you'll ever hear. You know that kind of love that feels too good to be true? That was Samantha. I still remember the first time I saw her. She walked into the local coffee shop wearing a red scarf, smiling like she owned the sunlight. She wasn't from around our small Texas town. She had that city shine about her, polished, confident, unstoppable. I was just a ranch boy, boots dusty, hands calloused, and heart wide open. She said she loved that about me. "You're so grounded, Mark," she'd say. "You remind me what real means." Funny how years later I'd realized she never wanted real. She wanted control. We married fast, maybe too fast. My family's ranch had been in our name for 3 generations. 1,200 acres of sweat, soil, and sun. My father always told me, "Son, this land will test you. It'll show you who's here for love and who's here for legacy." At the time, I thought he meant the storms and the droughts. Turns out he was warning me about people. Samantha fit in at first, or at least she pretended to. She'd host dinners, manage the books, talk to the ranch hands with this sugary sweetness that felt just a bit performative. But when the guests left, her voice changed, cold, calculated. "Mark, you can't keep running things like your dad did," she'd say. "You need to modernize it. Let me handle the accounts, the permits, the sales." I didn't want to argue. She had an MBA after all. I had, well, a lifetime of dirt under my nails. So I let her. And little by little, she took control of everything. At first, it was small stuff, moving our savings to a joint account that only she managed. Then she convinced me to take out a loan for expansion. Soon, she was showing up at meetings I never invited her to. Then came the new wardrobe, the luxury SUV, the endless business trips to Austin. I told myself it was fine. Marriage is about trust, right? And I trusted her more than anyone. But there were cracks in the foundation I didn't want to see. One night I came home early from the ranch. Her laptop was open. I didn't mean to snoop, but curiosity's a dangerous thing. On her screen were emails to a law firm. And in the subject line were words that froze my blood. Division of assets, preliminary draft. That's when I realized she wasn't building a life with me. She was building an escape plan. The next few weeks felt like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. Every word, every smile felt staged. I tried to confront her once, asked why she'd been talking to lawyers. She didn't even flinch. She just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't act like you didn't see this coming. Mark, you think this life is enough for me?" That night she slept in the guest room. And the next morning, she was gone. A week later I was served. Divorce papers thick as a phone book. Her demands were bold enough to make my lawyer choke on his coffee. $8.5 million, and my family ranch. Her claim? That she built the ranch business into a modern, profitable enterprise. Never mind the fact that I'd been running it long before she even knew what a fence post was. The legal papers read like a personal attack. Every detail of my life, my family, my work ethic, twisted to make me look like some ungrateful, controlling husband who restricted her career. And the worst part? People believed it. That first night after I read those papers, I sat on the porch staring into the dark fields, the land. I'd worked since I was 17. I felt hollow, angry, powerless. You can't really describe the sound of betrayal. It's not loud. It's quiet, like the silence between two people who used to know each other's hearts. But somewhere in that silence, a spark lit inside me. Because if she thought she could take everything from me, my land, my pride, my legacy, she had no idea who she was dealing with. I wasn't going to fight dirty. I was going to fight smart. And soon enough, I'd find the one piece of paper that would turn this entire war upside down. The morning after I got those divorce papers, the sun didn't feel warm anymore. It just burned. I remember sitting in my truck outside the courthouse, staring at the man I used to be in the rearview mirror, confused, tired and broken. Inside, Samantha stood beside her lawyer, this slick guy in an expensive navy suit, with a grin that screamed, "I've already won." She didn't even look nervous. She looked like someone arriving to collect a prize. Her lawyer started talking first, calm, confident, rehearsed. He painted me as some outdated, overbearing husband who denied his wife independence and restricted her financial freedom. Every word felt like a knife twisting deeper. I wanted to stand up and shout, "That's not true." But my lawyer told me to stay quiet. "Let them talk," he whispered. "We'll need their lies on record." When Samantha finally spoke, her voice was calm, too calm, like she'd practiced it 100 times in front of a mirror. "Mark's a good man," she said softly, "but he never saw me as an equal. I worked beside him, built his business, and now I'm just asking for what I rightfully earned." Earned. That word echoed in my head the entire drive home. The same woman who once said she wanted nothing but love now wanted millions. And my home. My family's legacy. That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house sounded like her footsteps. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in that courtroom. Confident. Certain that I was finished. I wasn't angry anymore. I was something colder. Something sharper. The next morning I called my lawyer, Evelyn. She wasn't one of those loud, aggressive attorneys. She was quiet, calm, with eyes that studied people like puzzles waiting to be solved. "Evelyn," I said, "I'm not losing that ranch. Not to her. Not after everything my family built." She nodded slowly. "Then we don't just defend Mark, we investigate." Over the next few weeks, we went through every document Samantha had touched in the past 5 years. Bank statements, tax records, ranch contracts, personal transfers. It felt like digging through ashes, trying to find the spark that started the fire. And then late one night, Evelyn called me. I still remember her voice. "Mark, you might want to come to the office." When I got there, she had a file on her desk, one of the old account ledgers Samantha managed. There were transfers, small ones, just a few thousand at a time, but consistent. Always to the same account, under the name Heather Cole. Heather was Samantha's sister. Evelyn flipped through the pages. "This looks like asset concealment," she said. "She's been diverting money from your ranch's operational account into her sister's business for years. Legally, that's fraud." I just sat there stunned, my hands clenched into fists without me realizing it. She hadn't just tried to take what was mine. She'd been stealing from me all along. That night, sitting in my truck outside Evelyn's office, I couldn't even bring myself to go home. The air felt heavier than usual. I kept thinking about how Samantha used to say, "Trust me, Mark. You'll thank me one day for letting me handle things." She was right. I would thank her, just not in the way she expected. The next few weeks were a blur of court filings and evidence gathering. Evelyn played it cool. She didn't tell Samantha's side what we had found. She wanted them confident, arrogant, certain of victory. When the next hearing came, Samantha walked in like she owned the place. Same calm smile. Same perfectly pressed white blouse. Her lawyer gave me a smirk as if to say, "You should have settled." But Evelyn didn't look nervous. In fact, she was humming under her breath while organizing her papers. I leaned over and whispered, "You sure about this?" She smiled faintly. "Mark, I've never been more sure of anything." When it was our turn, Evelyn stood up and started with something simple. "Your Honor," she said, "we've reviewed financial documents submitted by the opposing party. We believe some of these records were altered." Samantha's lawyer interrupted. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Evelyn clicked a remote, and the projector screen lit up with 2 bank statements, side by side. One from the ranch's official account, one from the supposed household expense account. Same dates, same amounts, different recipients. The courtroom went silent. "That second account," Evelyn continued, "belongs to Heather Cole." You could have heard a pin drop. Samantha's face drained of color. Her lawyer's smirk vanished instantly. Evelyn didn't stop there. She walked to the bench, calm and precise, and handed the judge a folder. "These," she said, "are 5 years of transaction histories showing over $200,000 transferred from Mr. Harlan's ranch account to Ms. Cole's company." The judge's eyebrows rose. "200,000?" he repeated. "Yes, Your Honor," Evelyn replied. "All without Mr. Harlan's consent or knowledge, and we have notarized statements from the accountant confirming the discrepancies." Samantha's lawyer stammered, trying to speak, but the judge raised a hand. "Sit down, counsel." For the first time, Samantha looked scared. Not angry, not confident, just scared. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Evelyn leaned toward me and whispered, Now she knows what it feels like to lose control. The judge adjourned the session early, requesting a full investigation into the financial evidence. Outside the courthouse, the reporters were already circling like vultures sensing blood. Samantha stormed past them without a word. Her lawyer tried to cover, saying, "No comment," but everyone knew. Something huge had just shifted. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The investigation took weeks. Every day felt like walking through mud, slow, exhausting, and messy. But each document Evelyn uncovered pulled another thread loose from Samantha's web of lies. Turns out the money sent to her sister's company didn't just sit there. It was used to buy luxury items, jewelry, overseas trips, even a down payment on a beach house in Florida. All while she was telling me we were saving for the future. When Evelyn showed me the receipts, I couldn't decide whether to laugh or break something. I'd been funding her dream life, the one she never planned to share with me. In court, Evelyn presented everything neatly, as her calm, factual, devastating. By the end of it, Samantha's lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. The judge leaned back in his chair and sighed. "Mrs. Harlan," he said, "this is not only deceitful but potentially criminal. You do understand the consequences?" Samantha didn't answer. She just stared at the floor, eyes red, mascara running. That was the first time I'd ever seen her look small. The woman who once spoke like thunder now whispered like rain. The judge ordered a full audit and temporarily froze all her personal accounts. Her lifestyle came crashing down overnight. No more fancy brunches, no designer bags, no spa trips with her sister. Meanwhile, I went back to the ranch. The same dirt roads, same wind, same smell of hay and rain. But it all felt lighter now, like the land itself was breathing again. Neighbors started stopping by, and people who'd heard rumors but never knew the truth. They shook my hand, offered support, even apologized for believing the lies. It didn't fix everything, but it helped. One evening, while repairing a fence post, my phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. "She wants to settle," she said. I laughed, a bitter, tired laugh. "Now she does? She knows she's cornered, Mark, but it's your call. Do you want to end this quietly, or finish it in court?" I looked across the field, at the old oak tree where my parents used to sit every sunset. For the first time, I knew exactly what I wanted. "No," I said. "We finish it." Evelyn didn't argue. She just said, "Then let's make sure she never forgets what she tried to take." The final hearing felt different. No confidence, no fake smiles. Samantha walked in quietly, wearing a plain black dress, her eyes hollow. It was the first time I'd seen her without armor. Evelyn started slow, methodical, going through every document one last time. When she reached the transfers to Heather, Samantha's lawyer didn't even object anymore. He just sat there defeated. The judge spoke for nearly 10 minutes, summarizing the evidence. His tone was sharp, precise. Then came the verdict. All claims filed by Mrs. Harlan are hereby dismissed. Furthermore, due to fraudulent concealment of marital assets, the court rules in favor of Mr. Harlan. He retains full ownership of the ranch and business holdings. Mrs. Harlan is ordered to return $247,000 in misappropriated funds. The room went silent. Samantha's hands trembled. For months she'd fought to take everything, and in a few sentences, she'd lost it all. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just stood there breathing, feeling the weight lift off my chest. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Outside the courthouse, Evelyn looked at me and said softly, "Told you we'd finish it." I nodded. Yeah, we did. After the verdict, life didn't just snap back to normal. It took time to rebuild, to trust again, to wake up without feeling that dull ache in my chest. I sold the old truck we used to drive together, repainted the porch, changed the locks, not out of spite, but because I needed to reclaim the space that used to belong to us. One morning I found her wedding ring in a drawer. It caught the sunlight, still shining, still perfect, like a lie that refused to fade. I held it for a while, remembering the day she said forever. Then I threw it into the river behind the barn. Some things don't deserve to be buried. They deserve to be washed away. The ranch started thriving again. New clients, better contracts, and peace, or real peace. Evelyn checked in sometimes, mostly to make sure I was moving on. "I'm fine," I'd tell her. And maybe for the first time I meant it. Because pain changes you, but survival shapes you. And after losing everything, I'd found something stronger than love or revenge. I'd found clarity. A few months later, I got a letter. No return address, just my name written in handwriting I'd never forget. It was from Samantha. I stared at it for hours before opening it. Inside, just one page. No apologies, no explanations. Only a few lines. I thought I wanted freedom, but I only found emptiness. You were the only person who ever believed in me, and I broke that. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you find peace even if I never do. I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Then I folded it and put it in the drawer. Not because I forgave her, but because I didn't need to carry her anymore. That night it rained, soft, steady cleansing. I sat on the porch listening to the drops hit the wood, and for the first time in years, it didn't hurt to remember her name. People say closure comes from answers, but sometimes closure is just accepting that you'll never get them, and that's okay. I didn't write her back. I didn't need to. Because the story she tried to end with pain, I'd finished with peace. A year later, the ranch was busier than ever. New workers, new fences, and laughter echoing through the fields again. It didn't erase the past, but it reminded me that life moves forward, whether you're ready or not. Sometimes I'd catch myself remembering her. The good moments, not the courtrooms or lies, the mornings she'd bring me coffee before sunrise, or the way she used to hum old country songs when she cooked, and I'd smile. Not because I missed her, but because I finally could remember without bleeding. Evelyn stopped by one afternoon with a contract for a new land deal. "You've come a long way," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "Guess pain makes a good teacher." She smiled. "So does peace." When she left, I walked out to the edge of the ranch, where the oak tree stood, the one that had seen everything. The storms, the heartbreak, the healing. I placed my hand on its trunk and whispered, "We made it." And maybe it was just the wind, but for a second, it felt like the world whispered back. Some nights, I still think about how close I came to losing it all. Not just the ranch, but myself. When you give someone your heart, you never think they'll turn it into a weapon. But maybe that's the lesson. Love isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do after you're broken. I started mentoring young ranchers in the county, helping them avoid the same mistakes I made, not just in business but in trust. One kid asked me once, "How do you know when someone's the right person?" I smiled and said, "When they want to build with you, not from you." It hit me how much I'd changed. A year ago, I would have said love was about passion. Now I knew it was about peace. The past still lives here, in the creak of the barn door, in the smell of rain on the dirt road, but it doesn't haunt me anymore. It reminds me, because sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who teach you who you were always meant to be. One evening, I got invited to speak at a small business conference in town. They wanted me to share how I rebuilt after losing almost everything. I almost said no. I wasn't used to talking about my life, but something inside me said it was time. When I stood on that stage under the soft yellow lights, I saw faces that reminded me of who I used to be, hopeful, afraid, uncertain. So I told them the truth. I told them how I trusted too easily, how I ignored the signs, how sometimes love blinds you to the danger of comfort. But I also told them this: losing everything doesn't mean you're finished. It means you're being forced to start again, this time without illusions. After the speech, people came up to thank me, not for being strong, but for being honest. And that night, driving back home under the stars, I realized maybe my story wasn't a tragedy after all. Maybe it was just the beginning of something new. The night after that conference, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee and watched the horizon fade from gold to deep blue. The world felt still, not empty, but peaceful. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for something to happen. I was just living. A truck pulled up near the front gate. It was Evelyn. She stepped out holding a small envelope. "Mail for you," she said with a grin. "Looks official." Inside was a letter from the county, a board confirming a grant to expand the ranch's youth training program. I laughed, shaking my head. "Looks like we're growing again." Evelyn smiled. "Told you this place wasn't done yet." As she drove off, I looked at the stars. Some of them were faint, barely visible, but still shining. It reminded me that not everything bright burns loudly. Some things just endure quietly. That's what I wanted to be from now on. Not the man who lost everything, but the man who learned, who rebuilt, who kept shining anyway. Weeks passed and life found its rhythm again. The ranch buzzed with new energy, laughter from the young trainees, the sound of horses in the fields, and music from the old radio in the barn. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at the horizon, thinking how far I'd come from that broken man sitting in a courtroom. Pain had been my teacher, but peace had become my reward. One afternoon, as I was repairing the barn door, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Heather, Samantha's sister. For a moment, my chest tightened, but she didn't look proud or defensive. She looked tired. "I just came to say I'm sorry," she said softly. "For everything. For being part of it." I didn't say anything for a while. Then I nodded. "Just don't repeat it with someone else," I told her. She nodded too, tears in her eyes, and left without another word. As her car disappeared down the road, I felt something unexpected. Forgiveness. Not for her, not for Samantha, but for myself, for finally letting go. Because moving on isn't about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to let it define who you are anymore. That night, the sky over the ranch was clear, 1,000 stars shining like old memories. I sat on the porch with Duke lying beside me, the cool wind brushing through the fields. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Same number, same silence behind it. I opened it. "Enjoy your peace while it lasts." I stared at it for a long time, and then deleted it. Because peace isn't something someone can take, not anymore. I'd spent years loving the wrong person, trusting the wrong hands, and fighting battles I never asked for. But through it all, I learned something my father was right about all along. The truth always comes out, son. You just gotta outlast the lie. And I did. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, I whispered to the wind, "This ranch, this life, this peace, and it's mine again." Then I stood, took one last look at the fields, and walked inside. The story was over, but my new beginning had just begun.